Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hacking HR October series. This is Mine. I'm joining from Istanbul, Turkey, and today we will be talking about mapping the employee journey using AI. So before we kick off our conversation, let's see who we have today in the audience. This is like a ritual now that we keep doing to see who is joining us from all around the world. So if you can just like put in the comments where you're joining from, whether it's the morning for you or the evening time. Let's see who we have in the audience. This is always a beauty of having the Hacking HR series. And because we have people joining us from all around the world. And so before I call our panelists onto the stage to talk about our topic today, I would like to see who is joining us. And you might be joining from different locations in the world. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone.
Good morning, at least from here.
Okay,
Same. Good
that's
morning.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, Erika. How are you? In the meantime, I'm just keeping an eye at the comments. We have people from Americas, mainly Toronto, Iowa, Austin, North Carolina, Seattle, Nebraska. Uh, Again, Toronto. Don't we have anyone from Europe or Asia? It must be
We have
quite
someone
late.
from South Africa.
Do we? Okay, I think I missed that. Let me see who we have. Yes, South Africa. Amazing. Cape Town. Okay. And where are you joining us from, Sally?
So I'm in Montreal, Canada. It is 10 a.m. this morning, onto my first coffee, but should be enough for this conversation. So we'll see.
Amazing. Jamie, where are you joining from?
I am also in the Austin, Texas area. So good morning to the Austinites that are on the call.
Amazing. We have people joining from Austin. And Erica, where are you joining from?
So I'm on the other side of the US. I'm actually joining from Atlanta, Georgia this morning. So my time is a little bit later, so I'm a little bit more awake than probably the Austinites today.
Amazing. And it's 5 p.m. here. It's almost the end of my day in Turkey on the eastern side of the world. And let's kick off our conversation because today we will be talking about the very important topic, which is creating moments that matter in the employee life cycle, but how to do it through AI, how to augment the moments in the employee cycle. So before we go into details, Sally, let's start it with you. What are those moments that you think that matter in the employee life cycle?
Oh, wow. That's a very general question, but I would say all of them. But I think in the end, the employee journey has multiple facets, be it, the onboarding or performance or, all of the above. But in the end, AI's goal is to help us focus in on what we're really good at doing, which is being human. So I think that regardless of what phase we are in the employee journey, it's being able to tap into AI to do things that enable us to keep the employee touch really high and engaging. Yeah.
That's really important, and I will be asking more about that, like how AI is actually improving that process. And Jamie, so if we look at those moments, and as Sally is saying, all of them are important. But how do we make sure that we are not missing any of those by using these tools?
Yeah, I think this is one of the areas that AI can really help. a lot of times we're in HR creating calendar invites or reminders on managers' calendars, or sending nudges to managers around those key moments, or if we see something or hear something. And I think this is one of those data-driven opportunities for AI to come in and make that more automatic in the background. Hey, we're noticing this is happening, and or we think that this employee is ready for some additional coaching or development in this area. There's just so many different ways that AI can get involved in the process for the employee journey, and help managers stay on top of, because being a manager is hard. And when you're trying to manage up and down and, produce yourself, that's one of the hardest jobs in the organization. So anything we can do to empower them and make them feel more confident and take some things off of their plate from a people leadership standpoint, I think that's where AI can really shine and help managers shine as well.
That's really important because usually with that conversation, I always like to give that recognition to the managers because, like, especially the mid-level managers, they get the pressure from the top, but they also try to be nice with the people that they manage and also get that feedback and just like take it to the top. So as you were saying, AI would make their life much easier. And Erica, on that side, how do you see AI getting into that play, making it easier? What are those, significant points that you would just highlight with your expertise, saying that, AI made this easier? And if it wasn't for AI, this would have been taking much longer to fulfill.
So I really think if you think about the world of automation and being strategic, what are those mundane tasks that you need to eradicate? And leveraging AI to do those things for you. The other piece is sometimes we get stuck and we're trying to take all this data and all this information and we're struggling with finding the right messaging. AI is like your personal assistant. So how do I take the language, the words, the data, and formulate them in a way that's mine? What's really great about it is you can actually use your voice. So it's not a separate entity. It's a part of who you are, and you're just building and growing and developing based upon leveraging AI.
That's really important because, like, on that side, is usually people just like, see AI playing the role to replace the human touch. But in fact, what you're all saying is just like, improving, augmenting the real experience. So instead of like replacing it. So how do you, so Sally, coming back to you, how do you see that going hand in hand, like the human touch factor and AI going hand in hand so that the process is even better?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that. If we get into the nitty gritty of an HR experience, for example, and I will caveat this by saying that ethics matter in AI. So regardless of what you're doing, there needs to be proper policy communication, purpose first and foremost. As a group, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And then communicate that to the team so that we can get buy-in from them. Otherwise, there's going to be resistance, just like there's resistance to any change. But I think even more tense resistance where people do wonder, are you reading my conversations for valuable purpose, et cetera, et cetera. So I think before we talk about what you can do within an organization, these are the bigger questions you need to ask yourselves within a leadership team. Why are we doing it? What are we doing? How are you communicating it? Is it the right reason? Does it align with our values? Really high level stuff. And then if you want to get into how can we utilize AI and different components to augment what we do as people professionals, one example can be your employee handbook. I mean, how many times, regardless of what level of HR you're in, be it HRO or an HR technician, you're getting questions every day about what's my coverage for this, what's the policy for that, this, that, and the other. And of course, there's a human touch there in being able to answer those questions. But what if we taught AI about our policies, about our benefits coverage, about all that? So AI can become the chatbot that answers these questions. And I'm having more valuable conversations with that employee. I'm liberating 1, 2, 3 hours a day of my schedule to have one-on-one touch points, to do monthly follow-ups, to do whatever it is that enables more relationships within the organization. So it's piggybacking on what Erica said. It's eliminating some of those mundane tasks, but then enhancing our capacities as people leaders of being people leaders.
And so, Jamie, being a people leader, because you are now overseeing different departments, and you're just like, as Sally is suggesting, there's a strategy in the company that you are like, designing and applying. How do you see that playing in different departments? And like, how can AI make sure that you are just like embracing everyone and not only a specific need for a specific department or people group?
Well, I think that there are opportunities on both sides. When I think about AI, it's a tool to enhance. And if I go back to that mid-level management group, those mid-level managers are overseeing every aspect of the business in some capacity. So from a strategy standpoint, I'm looking for high level, what are the things that matter most in the organization and what business problems are we trying to solve? And then how can AI enable our management team to do that? What are some of those key areas, or what are those moments that matter? An example for that is an opportunity to have personalized learning paths. The AI tools that are coming out now across the tech stack it's really impressive to see what some of these newer technologies are doing. And then as well as the adoption of Gen AI in technologies that have been around for a while. A personalized learning paths is a big deal because it's such a hard solve in an organization, and it empowers smaller organizations to have opportunities for those learning paths and career learnings that maybe don't usually get implemented in those small companies. That's usually a larger organization kind of opportunity. And then partnering those personalized learning paths with the performance management aspect. How do you use those performance management tools, right? And build that continuous feedback culture with those development tools, and maybe some AI guided coaching and sentiment analysis for retention and recognition. So there's a ton of different ways that AI can play into the strategy for whatever that business need is. And it's just making sure that you really understand and are transparent with what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you think it's going to impact the business.
And I would like to, and I really love how you are just like, mentioning the even the learning path being just like, designed per each need of a, people group. And Erica, I would like to ask you, because I know that you also have an expertise on the diversity inclusion side. So how do you see AI working on that side so that it's more inclusive, and whatever we do to just like, improve the employee experience, to map those, the highlights or like the milestones in the career of an employee, so that it's more inclusive?
So let me take a step back, because I think it's important to note that there is bias in AI because you have bad data in, bad data out. And to Sally's point earlier, the ethical piece of navigating that is going to be huge. So before you can build a foundation of inclusion, you've got to first acknowledge the bias that exists. Obviously, the willingness to continuously audit the data will help to support that, but also making sure that the people who are auditing the data have those biases checked as well is going to be important, because once again, you have to understand that we're dealing with human information. And so because historically it has been biased, you have to be willing to step in and adjust and make those adjustments to support that piece. Now, as it relates to being insurance inclusive, I think one of the biggest things is recognizing who are the stakeholders at the table. Designing the structure of whatever programming and processing you're using is going to be critical. The other piece is obviously continuously QA/QCing the journey from beginning to end, but once again, going back and auditing it. So if you think about inclusion from a standpoint of what does inclusion look like for your organization? So historically, some folks may think it's based upon race or gender, but there are other things you have to consider. You have to consider neurodiversity, you have to consider age, you have to consider socioeconomic background and experiences, because all those things play a role in how an employee shows up at work. And if you're trying to leverage AI in that piece, all those different pieces have to be analyzed and taken into consideration. So having a diverse stakeholder piece to answer the question, what's important to me in my employee journey, will set the tone for what can and cannot be leveraged as it relates to AI data, as it relates to leveraging AI for processing, and then ensuring that it's inclusive no matter where that person is in their employee journey or what brought them to that space based upon their own personal experiences.
This is really great. I would like to just wrap up, because we've been talking about a lot of important things. And for the people who are just new to this, like using AI or creating their employee experience. So as Sally was suggesting, it's really important to start with a strategy. So whatever we do, it's really important that we are aligning it with our strategy, with our company purpose, with our values, so that everything that we do is in sync. And getting back to your comment about it, Erica, so it's really important to just define the data points and make sure that those data points are accurate without any bias, and we are just making sure that we have gatekeepers. And as Jamie was suggesting, it's really important to use AI with the human touch, and also make it in a way that it works per every need of the employee groups, even designing their needs, their learning. So I just wanted to do some a mid break, so that we are just convening everything into a meaningful conversation. And for those people who are watching us right now and who are a bit reluctant or intimidated by using AI, can you give any best practices or the things that worked for you in your company that you found it really useful, time saving, and energy saving? I really like to put it in a way that is less time but more energy, because this is where we're putting our energy into. That saved energy on your side. Sally, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I think that people are using it in very different ways. And I'll give some concrete examples. But first and foremost, I think that what we need to address beyond ethics and whatnot is just a reminder that AI is here, not it's coming, it's here. We're in it. And the reason I mentioned that is that whether your organization implements the strategies or doesn't, your organization is using AI. So having said that, jump on board, because that will secure your information a little bit more. What it means is that employee of yours who does want to tap into AI and you have not enabled AI corporately will do so personally. And there's a risk of them sharing corporate information you don't want them sharing into the World Wide Web, because they're using the generic version of a chat GPT, versus you investing in AI and making sure that your employees have a tool to utilize where the data they're putting in to ask questions remains safe. So I think that's the very first thing, and an acknowledgement that it's here and people are using it, whether you are aware of it or not. That said, ways that are being used, I mean, I mentioned the employee handbook before from an HR perspective, but I really love what Erica says. I think I'm well enough spoken verbally. I struggle with emails. precisely when they include conflict. So I'll often ask for help with emails in terms of like, hey, this is happening with regards to customers. They don't want to pay a bill. This is why they don't want to pay a bill. I think they should pay a bill because of this, that, and the other. How do I formalize that in a respectful way using my voice, but also defining the reasons why the bill should be paid, for example. So that's just, and honestly, I would have broken my head in 17 million ways in a past life, whereas now I don't bother. I think you said it earlier, mine. It's where instead of, or Erica, being blocked somewhere, you're letting someone else take that pressure out and enabling you to move forward. So that's just one of the examples, but I'd love to hear, Jamie, Erica, what funky ways you guys have used it internally.
Jamie, you want to go next?
Yeah, I do want to say, I agree with Sally and Erica. I think HR has a responsibility to guide these AI conversations and AI adoptions within the workforce and within the organizations that we're serving. Not just know that it's happening, not just be aware, not just be at the table, but actually come to the table with some guidance on ethics and utilization and governance. So I think that's probably one of the places that I would advise HR leaders to start if they haven't already. And then, if there's opportunities for policy around that, I know we implemented a Gen AI policy specifically just to put some guardrails in without limiting and stifling creativity, right? We wanted there to be some solid adoption, but we didn't want to just give carte blanche. So having just some guidelines and railing, I think is helpful. If you're just really apprehensive, I would advise you to start with something that you feel confident that right? Because if this is meant to enhance, the tool meant to enhance. So if you are confident and competent in a certain area, use Gen AI to come up with something that you could easily come up with yourself, because it's going to give you an idea of how Gen AI is going to respond or what they're going to produce, and you'll feel confident in knowing, yes, that's good, or wow, that's really great, or I would have never said that, and that's not even on base. That's pulling in bias. That's pulling from old resources, maybe. So it'll give you a little bit better understanding of how to best embrace it. And I'd also say there's an opportunity to start with tasks that don't have an emotional tie. So don't start with some of the really hard human employee relations issues. Start with a project plan. There's not a lot of emotion in a project plan. But if I go to ChatGPT and say, create me a project plan around coming off of a PEO, it's going to spit out a whole long list of different things that could potentially be part of a project plan. And it's very tactical. And so less emotion and less bias. And so there's not a lot of opportunity for you to go off the rails that way. And it gives you, again, a little bit more confidence in what you might be seeing Gen AI tools create for you. So start small, start with non-emotional, and get really educated on AI adoption so that you can help to lead those conversations.
Yeah, I really liked how you talked about the parts to choose the ones that are not involved with feelings, because I think that's where we bring our human side and human touch. So and just like taking care of the mundane tasks or things that are redundant, but just adding more the human touch on the feeling side so that we make the final touch. So the final touch always happening through the human side. Erica?
So I think if you're starting and you're trying to figure out what's an easy, dip my toe in and get comfortable with AI, outlines and formats. For example, I'm working on an 8-week series of leadership for my management team, and I want these 5 topics covered. Give me an outline for what that looks like. And if you're in a general AI system, you'll get step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And you may look at it and think, this is not really the energy of my team. So you'll prompt and say, hey, you know what? Based upon this information, I'm working with a creative team. Make it more fun. And so you're having a conversation with AI essentially to get what you want. The other piece is if your voice is not the voice that you need at a stakeholder setting, allow AI to help you with that. So you formulated this letter. One of the things I want to remind you of is if you're using something that is external to your company, making sure that the information does not contain pertinent information, client information, employee information, details. Make it as generic as possible, because that information is open source for other people to use. But you can say, hey, I'm sharing results with my management team on our most recent employee survey. Here are the results. Help me formulate a message for the executive leadership team. Help me formulate a message for my management team. Help me formulate a message for the frontline employees. That way, the language is adapted based upon those needs. Now, as you're listening to this information and you're looking at it, please recognize if it does not sound like you, if it does not fit the culture that you're working in, the purpose is to be foundational. So adjust and adapt. For me, the biggest piece is I have a lot in my mind. And so I usually use AI to help shorten some words, to help organize some structure, or even to help me formulate the path of what should be first, second versus third. And so that gives you that toe in to AI to help you figure out what works well for you, and to also help you give that voice that you need that you may not be able to capture yourself.
So
I was just
please.
going to piggyback and say I love what both Jamie and Erica said, because it highlights the word iterations. So it is literally a conversation, and this is the ability that you have with AI, is to go through iterations of what you're asking until you get to a place where you're the most comfortable. So you could if we think of Jamie's example of project plan, I really love that. Now I'm giving you a starting date and an end date, and try to give me estimate periods for every one of those steps in a realistic way, knowing that such and such takes so long. That's one example. Okay, once you like those timelines, could you put that in a table for me so that I don't have to do any of the formatting, this, that, and the other? So the iteration is really important. Erica, I think you want to add something there.
I do. I think there's the other piece to recognize is knowing who your team is. So I work with a bunch of creatives. And so the thought and concern is that AI is going to take away from who I am and take over my work. It's a constant concern. So being able to connect that dot of, remember that project you were working on last week that you stumbled through? Here's an opportunity where you can leverage your own personal assistant to support it. The other piece is within the last month or so, if you're going into ChatGPT-4, as opposed to just answering the prompt, after it's answering the prompt, it asks the question, is this in the voice that you want? Or is there some more pieces you want to elaborate on? So even as time is moving forward, there's a growth and iteration of how your general systems are working as well.
Yeah. And there's one comment from our audience, and Anne says that as a 1.5 HR team, AI helps me to get things completed faster. It provides a basic foundation, and then I can take it from there. I use it for extend contract, job descriptions, newsletters, outline for training, and ideas for icebreakers or team building. So as you were saying, Erica, it's more like an organizer, like, putting everything, dumping it into AI and just like letting it to organize it. So that is just like, we are not spending that time. That's not in the most useful way, but just like letting AI take care of those, so that we are using our human power for the things that are just like, more meaningful, maybe to touch the people, and just like, creating those moments that matter for our employees. And there's also one more comment about your point, Sally. Employees are going to use AI with or without a company. HR has an opportunity to lead strategically in securing company and employee data. So I would like to ask about that, because Sally, you were mentioning it's okay to use generic AI tools, but to just like not maybe build your own, but just like, tweak it in a way, as Erica was also suggesting, in a way that is just reflecting your tone of voice. So it's not just like, one generic AI speaking to the company or the employees, but it's your own voice, it's your own culture, just like playing the role. And can you give any examples? I mean, or are you using it in that way in the company, tweaking it based on your strategy, your values, your culture?
We just recently got a private chat GPT, which really enables us to feed it with information. So yeah, we are the last quarter of our year, which means we are planning for the next year and beyond. So it's spitting in previous strategies, how as well as results of how we delivered on those, helping us build on future financial years based on what I expected last year and how I delivered, and based on the market of HRIS, what's a reasonable expectation for how we can deliver next year, the year after from a financial standpoint. So, I mean, definitely, if you are able to get a private version of a chat GPT and feed it corporate information, it's super helpful. Like I said, we are live in strategic planning for the next few years, and it's a really great tool that's been supporting us on it.
Amazing. Jamie, do you have any such built for your company product or AI tool that you're using?
Yeah, we have a company provided chat GPT as well. We also have we have 15.5 as our performance management and manager effectiveness tool, and they have integrated and implemented Gen AI on some of the performance management and employee engagement analysis options, which have been really great. And their product roadmap is pretty impressive when it comes to the Gen AI adoption and how that is impacting humans in the workplace, which is really cool. And then we're also in the process of partnering with a company called Presidio that helps with people analytics, just having answers about your employees and your demographic information, various information coming from the HRIS system. So we've and you know, I use ChatGPT all the time. You know, there's so many other new technologies. In the role that I'm in, I have, do a lot of HR tech feedback with people tech partners and individually. And so there's just some really interesting things that I think we're going to see hit the market in the next 12 to 18 months that are going to be game changers for how we think about the moments that matter, how we engage our employees and how we keep them engaged, and what we're able to provide to them in a human-centric workplace.
Mm-hmm. Erica, do you have anything in place?
So nothing in place because of the industry we're in, but recognizing that many of the systems we use already have AI in play. One of the biggest challenges for us as creatives is ensuring that AI does not overshadow the creative nature. So when we get together as a team, we actually in our manager stand-ups talk about what AI systems we're leveraging, because we came up with our AI policy a little over a year ago. And one of our concerns was making sure, number one, that AI does not impact our creativity and how we support our clients. So from a project standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, we gave some very high level expectations and put some parameters in place so that we don't cross that barrier. But one of the things I had to tell my team early on, and for those that are on this session that I think is important to note, is AI is not anything new. It's been around since the 1950s, and people have been using it in different ways. If you think about Spotify and the songs that are being selected for you, that's based upon AI. If you think about Netflix and the recommendations you get, that's based upon AI. And so the conversation becomes, how do you leverage that within a space of creatives? Well, maybe we're looking at pictures of certain environments. And so we're using AI to make sure we come up with the right pictures that we're going to take ourselves, as opposed to necessarily picking up the picture that's showing up that's AI generated. Or maybe we're leveraging the data from some sentiment analysis to figure out how to best support a client or a customer based upon some future interaction. So while we're not necessarily embedding it in our programming itself, we're leveraging it externally. And one of the biggest pieces, because of the clients we serve, it's very important for us to recognize that that information is not information that is open to the rest of the world to see, number one. And number two, that we are maintaining the integrity of what we bring to the table. But definitely leveraging the programming that's already built into systems we use has been very key and helpful for us. We had a video shared the other day and just wanted to see for fun, if we leverage AI, what does this look like? And there ended up being a man walking down the street and his head was facing the opposite direction. And so had we just said, okay, yes, let's take this video and run with it and let AI do it, we would have run the opportunity of obviously creating a video that did not meet our customers' needs, but just wanted to show the group that, to your point, Jamie, people are using it regardless. So let's show you how to use it responsibly and in a way that aligns with the culture of your organization.
Yeah, I love it because like when people are saying, AI is dangerous, AI is unethical, I'm just like, telling them this is what has been said when internet was first introduced. We cannot, because there's dark web, we cannot say that internet is not helping us or not improving our lives. So we need to use it responsibly. And just like, as all of you mentioned, like thinking about the ethics and how to use it in an ethical way without biases is really important. And so now I would like to ask you one thing, because like all of you are like using it in the company in one way or the other. Was there any instance where AI just identified a problem or something or like a need in the company for the employees that you would not get through a traditional feedback system? Was there any, I mean, if anyone wants to go with Jamie?
I don't have one personally, but I have had a conversation with a chief people officer at a different organization that have implemented a few AI tools in their tech stack. And her most recent example was they started to see engagement scores drop from a sentiment analysis standpoint. So not only were they getting the feedback from the employees, but they were also seeing like a sentiment analysis from AI tools come through that was flagging. We think there's an issue in this department, and it gave them the opportunity to dig in. What they found was the management team had rolled out a new initiative with goals and hadn't necessarily provided enough resources or the right resources and tools. And so they were able to quickly make some adjustments before it became a turnover situation or a retention issue. They went in, using those prompts from the AI tools and analyzed the situation, pivoted, provided additional resources, made the goals they explained the goals a little bit better, clarified expectations, and got the team back in a situation where they felt good about what was happening, what the expectations were, and what they were working towards. So I think that's one way where AI can help just to provide those nudges or that insight that you can sometimes overlook in an organization, or not even understand what's happening, and be able to make changes that are meaningful before they start to impact the financial aspect of the organization through retention and turnover issues. I thought that was a really great story from her.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great. So like, then you become more proactive rather than being reactive.
Correct.
And you take action before it's too late.
Correct.
Yeah.
I have another example from one of my HR network connections. We were having a really great conversation. Their organization was really proud about their DEI initiatives. If you looked at the data, the raw data from the outside looking in, it really did look diverse in terms of different groups here and there, as well as at different levels of the organization. So at different levels, there was an effort made for diversity on the leadership team, et cetera. And yet, if you look at the performance scores over the last 2-3 years and promotions that were allotted over the last 2-3 years, those promotions were far from being diverse. So the scores and the promotions did not align. The promotions were very not diverse. The scores were very diverse. So in essence, had you analyzed the scores properly and made a decision about promotions in accordance with a proper split of that group, then, there would have been a diverse, but somewhere something fell through. And although we made that huge effort 5 years ago to hire externally in a diverse way and to target certain groups in order to create that diversity, et cetera, the maintenance internally by doing promotions, et cetera, was failing in that viewpoint. And I think it's something they would have never caught had they not looked at the data and had the help of AI there. So I thought that was a really good instance.
Yeah. And I mean, just like, again, to be preemptive so that people are not just like, feeling disengaged at the end of the road, but just you're taking action on the way. Erica, you want to add something?
Absolutely. So we're actually in the midst of leveraging both the conversations that both Sally and Jamie said, because we're in the middle of our engagement surveys now. We do pulse surveys throughout the year. So this gives us that sentiment analysis that helps. But one thing that's very key, and it's probably important to a lot of folks on today, is Q4 is usually your opportunity to focus on what next year looks like. So we're in the midst of doing our skills gap analysis. And historically, you've got tons of papers you're flipping through and trying to figure out, okay, this person needs this skill set, this person needs this skill set. But there's an opportunity to leverage AI to do a couple of things. Number one, to find out from a numeric standpoint, how many employees within the entire database are lacking that skill. So it'll help you to devise what your learning and development looks like for the upcoming year. Number two, what does it look like from a team perspective? So I'm asking my leadership team, what are the skills needed in 2025 to ensure you're successful? Then we're taking that data and saying, okay, now let's do an individual analysis of every single employee. And being able to cross-reference that data for me individually would take days upon days upon days. So to be able to cross-reference the data of what the organization needs, what the employees' current gaps are, what the team's current gaps are across organizations is allowing me to do a couple of things. Devise our learning and development plan for the upcoming year, upskill or reskill employees who may be lacking key areas of success to ensure success for the upcoming year. But also I'm able to devise personalized learning plans for each employee moving into the next year, which from our feedback from our previous surveys was a critical piece of, I can appreciate the learning and development that exists, but I need to see how it aligns with who I am and where I am. So to be able to give someone a customized plan saying, based upon your individual feedback, based upon your peer feedback, based upon your supervisor's feedback, here's some key areas we want to grow in 2025. And here's what the path looks like. Here's what training looks like that's self-paced. Here's what training that looks like that's one-on-one, face-to-face. Here's what hands-on training looks like, has been a critical piece of me being able to leverage multiple systems of AI over the last few months.
That's really great, because there was a question that I was going to address.
I saw Mohammed's question, yeah, so it fit right in, absolutely.
And so I was going to ask, does anyone want to add on top of what Erica was mentioning about upskilling and reskilling and using AI to identify those gaps and to strategize? Sally?
I was just going to say, I think you nailed it in terms of upskilling and reskilling. And it's an exercise that has always been not a challenge for our role through all the generations with and without AI. So having the capacity of getting that help there is really great. If we add the human touch to that, here's the role as it stands today because it has evolved. And this person with their current skills is lacking something to be able to accomplish this role today. I think the challenge here now is remembering, now, do we upskill? Do we reskill? Do we have conversations and see where they can benefit other groups because of their current skill? So that current skill, let's not lose it. I think that current skill will be valuable elsewhere. And maybe this is that part that AI does not provide, but that part that we are now enabled to do as experts so that AI can do other things. And so it's that assessment, that evaluation, that conversation, that discovery, I think remains really crucial in the upskilling and reskilling conversation, is to not always look for what ChatGPT has had to say, but also where can I bring my knowledge and where do I think this person can go provide further mentoring or whatever it is that we think might be valuable there.
Jamie?
And then, going all the way back to those personalized development plans feeding into performance management conversations and having, the skills analysis and a skills database, at your fingertips. A business need is this, and we need these skills in order to be able to solve this business problem. here's my skills database, right? Here's all the people that I already have that I know. And then, as Erica said, what is that gap analysis? Because then you can also use that to help with, if you don't already use it, skills-based hiring on the front side. And that also helps with your DEIB initiatives if done appropriately. And so there's a lot of different ways that, using Gen AI to help build that skills database and that skills gap analysis can impact the business results that you're looking for.
Amazing. And there's one more comment about the human touch. So as we're coming towards the end of our conversation, I really want to take your opinion about how to balance it. Like how, and I know that we briefly mentioned about that combination of using the human touch and AI, but like it's then because it becomes a responsibility of HR, and how to make sure that it's like a good blend of the human touch versus using AI. So how do we make sure that the blend, the combination is right? Sally?
I don't know that I want to take the first one. Go ahead, Erica.
Okay, Erica, you want to go?
So, two things. Number one, say it. It's just that simple. Hey, team, we're going to leverage technology, has been always a conversation. So, you're replacing the word technology with AI. However, your feedback helps us to make this organization better. We hired you because of what you bring to the table. That's one thing AI cannot take over. And so there's always a question and concern of AI taking jobs. And I always tell people it's not going to be AI taking jobs. It's going to be people who have learned how to leverage AI that'll take those jobs. And so the question becomes, how much have you engaged in learning and understanding how to use it as your partner to make you a better, more impactful, more successful employee? And so when you talk about the human touch piece to it, I'll go back to the conversation about performance management and skills gap analysis. If I am taking all of that data and I'm allowing AI to help me sort through it and figure out a written plan, I still have to have a calibration session with the management team to figure out what that looks like. And so that's that human touch piece. We've got this data, we've sorted through it, we've caught it through it and figured out here's the foundation for where we are. Now let's talk about what this looks like, because here's the other piece. AI doesn't know how Suzanne feels about spending hours working at 6 a.m. versus 6 p.m. AI can't tell you that someone has an opportunity where they're both in school and working, and you need to balance and leverage those pieces out. So to have that human component allows you to say, in order to achieve these goals, here are the gaps. And having a person present that can connect those dots and tell those stories, whether it's the supervisor or the employee or the HR leader who has a direct relationship with an individual, is going to be key and critical to make sure not only have you developed a successful system, but that system has to be implemented. And the only way it's implemented is through human interaction. So to be able to connect those dots is going to be critical. To have that frank conversation and just say, we're going to spend this time on the technical piece. We're going to spend this time on the AI piece. We're going to spend this time on the human piece. And in combining all three, you're more likely to see success.
Jamie, you want to go next?
Yeah, balancing human and the AI aspect is highly important, but I don't think it's something to be scared of or worried about. AI can do a great job at suggesting personalized career paths and building learning modules, but it's a leader's role to engage with the employee for meaningful discussions and what that looks like and how that aligns with the business and the vision, the mission that the company is on. AI tools can identify trends and areas of concern, like with the chief people officer's story and example that I shared, but it wasn't until they had those human conversations where they dug in to figure out what the real aspect of the disengagement was, where it was coming from. AI is a way to help better understand teams and provide meaningful support, but when there's a stressful situation or a crisis situation, it still takes leaders with empathy and compassion and knowledge to be able to lead through in a short amount of time. And AI tools can help enhance that, but it's not going to take away. So, there's lots of different ways. I love the idea of leveraging AI to free up time so that there's more time for human engagement and interaction, to build community, to provide working environments where people feel and have the opportunities to feel heard, valued, understood, like they're working in a place that recognizes them as human beings. So, having a human-centered culture in your organization, you're just looking for ways that AI can augment that and enhance that, not replace it.
Amazing. I really like it. Like when people say that it's not replacing, but it's enhancing, I love it because that takes away the intimidation because everyone's so scared about these horror stories that AI is coming, AI is going to replace us. No, it's here to just like make our lives easier. I really like to look at it from that positive side. Sally?
Yeah, I recently did a panel where one of the panelists was the president of Mila Institute, which is a Quebec or Canadian AI organization. So, I mean, the leader of that institute was paneling, and she agreed that there are things AI will not replace. And to your point, Jamie, they include empathy, emotion management, and that kind of thing. So I do think that beyond everything that we can utilize AI to support us in, our responsibility now is to hone in on the thing that perhaps, I won't say we lacked over the last 4 years or 5 years since that big C word that we will not mention. But yeah, hone in on that. And if we know what happened over the last 4 years, well, we all went remote and forgot how to communicate with one another. And some of us had kids that were supposed to go to school and that perhaps didn't start school at that point and start socializing. And then the next year we were told that it worked out so well to be from home that we're just going to stay home and be extra productive and just, you don't need to leave and you don't need to socialize and just stay there. And then the next year we were told that actually forget it, productivity is dropping, hint, hint, because of lack of social interaction. Now everybody's coming back to the office and forget about working from abroad, this, that, and the other. So I think it's all of that. The last 4 years have been something. Let's just leave it at that. It's been something. It's been an experience. But the thing that we need to, that's kind of like the emotion that we can keep throughout is empathy and emotion management and socializing and all of those things that AI will not replace. So I think our responsibility now is to take those available moments. Perhaps it is coaching on emotion management, on empathy, on all of that stuff. Perhaps it's training in those things. I don't know, but I do think, and according to that president of the Mila Institute, there is an effort that needs to be made here now that we have the brain space to do it, to go back to roots of human connection and human management. And the other thing that I will say with AI, just to wrap it up on my note here, burnout was also a big problem over the last 4 years of working from home, of being unable to leave my bedroom because that's where my desk is. And I do believe that AI has enabled us to alleviate that pressure, because hopefully at the end of the 40 hours, I really am done my job and I'm not continuing onwards. So all of the things that connect us back to the human at the core and their mental health and the way that they're operating, I think are the most important things to take out of AI to benefit us in the future.
Amazing. So we are coming to the end of our conversation. And before we do so, I would like to do a quick round and ask you some tips or suggestions for anyone who wants to start using AI to help with their employee life cycle, how to just improve it. Where shall they start, and what are the critical factors that will just make their life easier in their decision in using AI along with the human touch? Who shall we begin with? Erica, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So obviously beginning with the end in mind, leverage AI to streamline onboarding and add that personal touch. You can definitely make it a seamless process by having consistency, but that personalization is going to be key. And so leveraging AI to do that will definitely be helpful. It makes the person feel valued from day one. The other piece that I see in the employee journey we already talked about was leveraging it from fostering an environment of continuous learning and development, whether it's the skills gaps analysis, whether it's the personal development plans, but making sure there's an opportunity where an individual can see themselves growing within the organization and leveraging the data that AI has been able to support that information. The other piece is obviously if you're looking at internal growth, leveraging AI to talk about internal mobility and what that looks like, but also taking a step back to Sally's point and prioritizing employee well-being. How do I connect to this organization? And so whether it's using sentiment analysis, whether it's leveraging the resources that are there, is it evaluating and updating your work from home policy, any of those things that you can use AI-driven tools to update and support because you're using external data will definitely help it. And the final piece is leveraging AI for meaningful offboarding experiences. One of the things that I love about the organization I currently support is when people leave us, we talk about them graduating and moving on and moving upward. And sometimes they boomerang and come back because they've got more experience and they just miss home. But that transition as they leave is always a great one. It's always a thankfulness for the appreciation. And sometimes it's me taking all the data of all the things they've done, putting it into ChatGPT and forming a meaningful letter that is in my voice that allows me to recap their experience so they're able to tell their own story moving forward. Sometimes it's me just asking, hey, what are some cool, great ways to congratulate this person on their new journey? And it's that simple, but the impact is enormous. So from beginning to end, you're able to find ways to plant the seed of AI, but not let it overtake the human experience so that an employee has the ultimate employee journey with you.
Yeah, this is really important because we usually overlook the offboarding or like, after the exit side of the employee experience. But this is like a cycle. And as you said, sometimes they become alumni, sometimes they become like, they refer people because like they are the ones who have been with us. So it's really important to involve AI in the offboarding. Sally, you want to go next? Or Jamie, you unmuted yourself.
Yeah. So when I think about the employee life cycle, it is cyclical, right? It is this a never-ending loop, and that's the goal, is that it's a never-ending loop, and that you continue to re-engage your employees to come back and keep thriving. And so really it's just, that employee life cycle, that employee journey should be pretty similar for everyone in the organization. However, it's just a matter of speed. Like, where do they reach? How fast do they reach certain moments? So when I think about utilizing AI in the life cycle, I'm looking for, starting with those places, those moments where that starts to fall off, where that engagement just starts to fall off, at least to get started, right? Onboarding is super important. Pre-hire is super important. You want to set them up for success, but I also want to make sure that I'm impacting retention and development along the way. And so what are some of those different ways I can lean into AI that help me see where engagement levels are falling off or thriving, employees are no longer thriving and they're needing to be rejuvenated or upskilled, or they need some motivation, or maybe they're ready for a new role, or whatever that is, so that we're ready for their next step in their career and in their journey. And I think that while there's AI tools that can help with that, having that human touch is going to be the moment that matters there. So what tools can I use and what AI can I establish to help me find out where those moments are for each individual faster and more effectively?
And Sally.
Yeah, a concluding note, I think going back to the original question of if they haven't started, where did they start? I think where they start is probably not AI. I think where they start is asking their existing group of employees who knows their organization, their culture best, how would you utilize AI in the employee journey and life cycle? And one, what that does is gets buy-in before you're implementing an AI policy and strategy. You're letting them know this might be coming, and I'd love to hear from you before we strategize on how to use it. You're involving them in the mission and the vision of what you're doing. So ask the question, get the data. Once you get the data back, then ask AI, here's the feedback from employees. What do I do with it? And then see what your plan is moving forward. But that's certainly how I would begin that journey if there's nothing that exists within an organization.
Amazing. So thank you, everyone. We keep receiving positive feedback and the feed too in the comments. So thank you for sharing your valuable insights, your experience with the audience with us. And for our audience, thank you for being with us today. And we look forward to having you in the following webinars. Please keep an eye on Hacking HR accounts to see what's coming up and at the rest of the October series and November series. So until then, take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.